Well, I'm joined now from her West Midlands constituency by Conservative MP Margot James and here by Lucille Harvey of the Unite Union, who you briefly saw in my report there. Well, Margot, I'll ruin you what more than one MP has told staffers who complain of harassment.
Well, I think that's a despicable attitude, and I'm quite sure that's not commonplace. But of course, you know, I wouldn't question what those employees have said, because I think what we're talking about here really is an abuse of power. It's an abuse of position, and it reveals a bullying mentality, I think. And you know, if people are prepared to bully their staff sexually or in other ways, then I'm afraid that kind of threat you've just outlined, Kathy, would be probably the next step of someone like that.
Well, let me go to Lucille Harvey. How widespread do you think this kind of bullying is? I mean, there are 650 MPs. Is it that commonplace?
The problem is we don't know the full extent because there is no procedure in place for people to complain. So we'll never be fully aware of the true extent of the problem. From what we see in the branch, this isn't a few rogue MPs. There's a culture here that needs to be challenged, and that's what we'd say.
Margot, a culture that needs to be challenged. This is not just a few rogue MPs. Do you accept that?
Well, I wouldn't say that the kind of people who would say, you know, I'll ruin your career. I don't think that is at all common. I would think that kind of attitude is probably a few rogue MPs. However, I do think there is an issue with the culture. I saw your report last night, and I think you had enough witnesses and enough people who I would trust talking about that culture. And although I haven't myself actually seen or experienced any signs of it, I wouldn't deny that it existed, having seen your film last night. I think it is a problem, and I think we need to address it, which is why the Conservative Party have issued its grievances procedure for MPs to adopt today.
Well, is that voluntary code of conduct going to make much difference, given that MPs are going to be handling the complaints? So potentially you've got staff being harassed, complaining to the very person who's harassing them.
Well, I think it's a good start, and it's not only, I mean, the procedure does start with the employee taking up the issue with the MP who employs him or her, but there's also recourse to a panel of senior party members who are many of them who are not even MPs themselves,
a good start,
who are going to be able to offer pastoral care, and that an individual employee could approach one of that committee in confidence. And the Speaker has also established a telephone line as well.
Sorry to interrupt, but a good start but needs to be beefed up, you think?
Well, I think it is a very good start. I mean, I've read it in some detail, and I think it conforms to best HR practice, and I think it is a very good start. And the party have committed to reviewing the way it operates at the beginning of next year. So it's like a sort of 8-month trial period, if you like. But it does depend on MPs taking it up. And that aspect of it is voluntary. I would agree with you there. I shall certainly take it up, and I'm sure a lot of my colleagues will.
OK, Lucille Harvey, is this code of conduct going to help at all?
It's a start, but it's a very small start. This isn't a partisan problem, it's a cultural problem, so we need an across-the-board sexual harassment policy that covers all staff. What happens if you're not a Conservative, don't work for a Conservative MP, and you face harassment? So just bad luck for you. All staff need to have the same protections in the workplace. And the point I'd make about a few rogue MPs, the branch recently did a survey this month of staff, and we found 20% of staff who completed our survey were victims said they faced harassment in the workplace. So it's not just a few rogue MPs. This is a prevalent problem.
Briefly, Margot, this is too big a problem with too serious implications for MPs, surely, to be trusted to police themselves. We saw what happened over expenses. There's a risk here that MPs won't be able to deal with harassment themselves as well.
Well, I mean, we shouldn't forget that this code of conduct and grievance procedure does not take place in a vacuum. I mean, employees have their legal rights under employment law, and I would accept that most employees don't want to go down that course straight away. And this grievance procedure is a means of bridging that. But I do accept that it is a real problem and that we may have to strengthen things, and there may need to be a recourse to an independent body in time for staff and employees. People have to be protected from the kind of abusive behaviour that your report revealed last night.
Margot James, thank you very much for joining us, and Lucille Harvey in the studio. Thank you.